Hello, my name is Mithun Bondugula. Welcome to my Redpanda open house presentation. Um, I'll be talking about LiveRamp's privacy-safe implementation of streaming using Redpanda. I will also cover some learnings and challenges, and I hope you find them useful. So, a little bit about me. So I manage the big data infrastructure and consumer compliance teams at LiveRamp. Before joining LiveRamp, I've led several large initiatives where I, uh, in both in the big data and web application fields. Uh, for example, the most recent experience when I was with Meta, I led a team that migrated Meta's entire batch workload from Hive to Spark. I'm a passionate pickleball player. I live in Seattle area, and feel free to hit me up for a pickleball game when you are around here. So let's talk a little bit about LiveRamp. So one of the biggest challenges in the industry today is collaboration across the organization. It is even more complex when collaborating using the consumer data. So consumer data can be offline attributes like name, phone, address, and zip code, which change often and do not have a consistent representation. And online attributes can be like IP address and device ID. So this is where LiveRamp helps. We make it easy, privacy safe, and secure in collaborating across the organization using identifiers that are both consistent and stay the same over a period of time. So, LiveRamp being in the ad tech industry, right? We work with very large volumes of the data. For example, we process 150 billion rows per every day, and our raw storage itself is like 30 petabytes. Right. So some of the streaming use cases that we have a public endpoint API that receives around 250K requests per second, which in turn writes 750K messages to our Redpanda cluster, totaling up to 1 Gbps. Right. So we use Redpanda over here to modernize our infrastructure. Apart from that, we have a internal instrumentation framework or tooling that is based on OpenTelemetry. The initial implementation had several issues with the reliability. It was basically uh, losing messages when losing messages. So we introduced Redpanda in that architecture and brought down the event loss to 0%. All right. So why Redpanda? Right. So for LiveRamp, modernizing, staying ahead of technology curve to meet our customer needs is number one priority. And when we started modernizing our streaming infrastructure, we considered several industry standard streaming solutions, including the industry leaders. But we went with Redpanda after a thorough evaluation phase that included doing a technology deep dive, talking to the Red Panda team, including CEO Alex, and also doing a elaborate POC. So one of the key feature that actually tilted the balance in on the side of Red Panda is the bring your own cloud solution. This particular solution uh, offered the right balance between a managed solution and complete ownership of our data for LiveRamp. So basically, one of the privacy requirements for us is to keep the data within LiveRamp's network boundary, and this basically allowed us to do that. Right. We also did a very thorough performance testing on a 6-node N116 cluster. We were able to achieve 2.9 Gbps reads and 1.2 Gbps writes. So that pretty much met all our requirements, and we were pretty ecstatic about that performance. Right. On top of it, Red Panda, because we had such a good relationship during the POC phase, were willing to work with us as a design partners. We were able to work on their features and roadmaps. And if you see there will be a lot of our fingerprints on a lot of their features, especially on the bring your own cloud functionality. All right. So some of the challenges, right? So we engage as I mentioned, we engaged very early on with the Redpanda team. The core technology itself was awesome. It was built on C star using C++. So it had very good performance. But when we tried to productionalize it, it had some kinks. We worked very closely with the Redpanda team to iron out the kinks. So that took a little longer than we initially anticipated. So we had to work around that. We also had to build several sets of tooling on the client side. Redpanda team is now introducing Redpanda console to address some of those, but initially we had to build our own tooling. Apart from that, the initial version installation of the initial version of Bring Your Own Cloud solution had several components to it. So we built a Terraform layer to automate all of them. We provided that feedback to the Redpanda team, and they're introducing some of the automation in the v2.0 version of the Bring Your Own Cloud solution. All right, learnings. So if you can see the diagram below at the bottom of the screen, so it shows one of the challenges one of the challenge that we ran into, where our publishers are in an isolated network that are trying to talk to Redpanda cluster in our shared network. Shared network is a lot more protected. So the publishers had to go through a single entry point through a load balancer or a firewall. But because Redpanda architecture uses RAF protocol, we could not accomplish that. So to work around that, we had to implement another instance of Redpanda cluster in our isolated network and use replication to replicate the data to the Redpanda cluster in our shared VPC. So that's a thing to watch out if you have similar network layout, right? And we also, since the public endpoint that I initially mentioned receives requests from external partners and external customers, for us 100% availability is very, very critical, right? So we had to implement streaming on the client side in cases where the client itself loses connection with the Redpanda cluster, right? The streaming, our homegrown solution, the previous solution had the buffering, but Kafka Connect, the client stub that Redpanda users does not have. So we had to implement that by our own. Thank you very much for joining the presentation. Here are my contact details, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any further questions.